Well, the scene that I've always talk a lot about, it's actually quite a simple, I mean, it's a very important scene, but it's a very simple scene. There's a moment in the Gospel of John where Jesus meets a Pharisee called Nicodemus.
Yes, well, I think the Nicodemus scene is a nice example of having to construct a scene through some bare facts or elements that are written down in a text. So without embellishing or overlaying it or making it work, trying to crowbar in a reality or a real situation to be the vehicle for this dialogue, it has to be built from the bottom up.
We did a lot of thinking about what do we do in a scene like this? Because it's another thing about when you're filming the Bible is that it gives you very few stage directions. And in this instance, all it says is it mentions that there are two people there, Selva and Nicodemus, and it mentions that it's at night. And that's pretty much it.
A bit of a dance in the dark in terms of how it appears in the story. They meet at night and they're kind of casing each other out.
And that kind of idea of Jesus himself being not quite sure of how this is played out and why this man wants to talk to him. Is it a setup so that they can grab him? And
we kind of choreographed a routine. I think we broke the scene down into 2 or 3 sections, but the two actors could really get stuck into the scene knowing that the cameras are going to work around them and they'd have freedom to move around each other. And so there's this kind of dance going on, and there's quite a lot of symbolism thrown in there with the props and things that are used.
But then we tried to think, well, what would happen in first century Palestine if somebody turns up at your house? Well, what would happen is that you would, or almost certainly, you would offer a guest water to wash his hands. You would also offer them something to eat and something to drink. That was hospitality.
So to explore then in the history or the culture of greeting somebody into your house and washing their hands or offering some food or some wine, these sorts of rituals that would happen, they can arguably go in if there's a historical basis for it, even though it's not in the original biblical text. So marrying those two together, we can try and recreate or bring to life something that is reported to have happened.
What also then occurs is that you've got water, you've got bread, you've got wine. And of course, in a biblical context, water, bread and wine have huge sort of symbolic significance.
There's a wonderful 15-second piece where Nicodemus comes up the stairs and Jesus looks at him and then walks behind him and looks down the stairs just to make sure there's not a lot of soldiers that are going to scramble up the stairs and arrest him. It's moments like that, it shows something of very much the human Jesus, that he knows events are going to be played out in a particular way.
But I think there's a good example of creating, and also a good example of a scene from John, because it has that lovely beginning, middle and an end where the characters, they change through this scene and they're different people at the end.
That was where we as filmmakers could come in, add something to it without detracting from the original text.